Hi friends, I welcome you to my channel Go Digital Get IT right here. In this video, I'll be talking about data types in Python. Before we jump into data types, let's try to understand what exactly do we mean by a data type. If I compare it with our real life day-to-day scenarios, we always like to have our objects in the right place. For example, I made some coffee. I need to pour it to a coffee mug, not to a bookshelf, right? I have a book. I need to keep it in a bookshelf, not in a coffee mug. And let's say I have a fruit. I need to drop it in a fruit basket, not in the bookshelf. So that's the right way of organizing my objects, or in other words, if I have to compare it with the world of Python, this is all about organizing my data. Alright, so with this information, if I get into the data types which are supported by Python, there's a long list of data types, but we'll begin with the basic data types initially. The first one is about integer. Integer is a number without a decimal point. For example, the number of students in a class. That cannot be a decimal, it always has to be an integer, right? Next one is about float. Float is a number with a decimal point. For example, the weight of a student. That can get into a decimal as well, right? So that those kind of data will be saved as a float. The next comes the string. String is any value which is enclosed either with a single quotes or a double quotes. For example, the name of a student, the name of the YouTube channel which we are looking at right now, the last name of a student. So they all will be saved as a string. The reason is it can be a combination of alphabets, special characters, numbers, and many more. So all of them will go as a string. The fourth one is Boolean. A data type will be called as Boolean, where it can hold either one of the two values, which is true or false. In those cases, we'll save the data type as a Boolean because these are the only two possible values that the variable can hold. Let's look at things in action in a Jupyter notebook. All right, so I'll create a new fresh Jupyter notebook and I will name it data types. That's what we're going to learn here. So in the very first cell, I will create the variables and assign some values to it. For example, we'll take a hypothetical scenario here. I'm trying to maintain the data of a doctor. So the first variable I create is the first name of the doctor. So I say doc first name and I'll give the value as Steve. I'll create another variable which is doc second name and I will name it as Johnson. Okay. I'll create another variable which would be the number of children the doctor has. So I'll say doc number children. And let's say the doctor has two children. I create another variable to capture the weight of the doctor. Let's say he weighs 88.67 kgs. Okay. And I create another variable to capture the number of patients the doctor treats on a daily basis. So doc number of patients. Let's say in a day he treats around 15.67. Now, mind you, this is an average, okay? Number of patients mean, right? So let's say on an average, he treats around 15.67 number of patients. Now I want to check, is the doctor a surgeon? So I will save it in a variable. Doc is surgeon? No, he is not a surgeon. So I'll assign the value false to the variable. Now what have I done here? I have created multiple variables and I have saved different type of information in each variable. The first two variable, which is the doc first name and the doc second name, are actually string. Why do I call it a string? The reason is I have enclosed the data within single quotes. Right? The third one, which is doc number of children, is an integer. Why do I call it an integer? Because I have saved a value which does not have any decimal point after it. The remaining two, the doc weight and the doc number of patients mean, will be saved as a float because it has a decimal value. And the last one, which is the doc is surgeon, is the value assigned to it is false, so it will be saved as a boolean. Let me run this line of code. Fair enough, this was successful. Now, something you would like to observe here is I'm not defining what kind of a data this particular variable should hold and then assigning the value, unlike traditional languages. I'm directly creating a variable and straight away assigning a value to it. Now, Python is smart enough to figure out what should be the data type the user wants to save as depending on the data on which I'm saving it. So in this variable, I've saved it. I'm actually saving a character. Python is smart enough to understand, oh, this is a variable where I'm supposed to define it as a character. All right, now that we have made an interpretation of what the data type should be, let's check if our interpretation is correct. So let's see what we have thought to be a string has actually been understood as a string by Python or not. So in order to do that, let's first try to print the data type of each variable which Python has understood. For example, I will first try to see what's the data type that Python has understood for the variable doc first name. So I'll write a print command, print the data type of doc first name is, I'll separate it with comma, and then I will print type of doc first name. Let me run this and then I'll explain it. So I have a print command here. So print command, the first part of the print command is the data type of doc first name is. So that's what it prints as it is. And I separate it with comma, that means it will concatenate the first part and the second part. What is the second part? Second part is type of doc first name. So when we pass any variable within the type function, so it's an inbuilt function of Python, type. So if you pass any variable within the type function, it will extract me the data type of it, right? So now if I run this line of code, it says the data type of first doc first name is class string. str stands for string. That is exactly what we were expecting, right? Similarly, I can get the data type of other variables as well. So I'll just quickly do a copy paste and let me run past the data types one by one. So I'll do a doc second name. Next is doc number of children, doc weight, doc number of patients mean, followed by doc is a surgeon or not. Now I run this particular line of code to ensure that I have the right information. The first two characters the first two variables have been identified as a string. Next is identified as an integer as expected, number of children. The next two have been identified as float as expected, and the last one has been identified as boolean, again as expected. I hope you're liking what we are learning so far. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. That will encourage us to upload further more such videos. Thank you.